Good morning, good people. Today is January the 6th, 2026. I hope everyone's new year is going well so far, and I hope it continues to be a good year for you also. So this morning I want to come over here and talk to you guys. You know, my past few videos have been in reference to this president of the United States right now and the things that he says, the things that he's doing, which a lot of the things that he says and does don't really add up. And I say that because, for example, this president of Venezuela and his wife that were both captured a couple of days ago, and now they're sitting in jail up in New York because of, quote unquote now, drug trafficking. And I say quote unquote because if you looked at my last video, I went into detail about why this arrest or these two arrests have nothing to do with the trafficking of drugs. How the killing of these so-called drug traffickers have nothing to do with the quote-unquote war on drugs that Donald J. Trump has put into place. And it's obvious why. And the biggest obvious reason on why I say that is because of the fact that he decided to pardon the former president of Honduras, who was found guilty of trafficking thousands of pounds of cocaine into the United States. It wasn't an allegation. It wasn't a he say, she say. It was found to be factual that this guy was transporting hundreds of pounds of drugs, cocaine to be exact, into the United States. And so he was found guilty and sentenced, and lo and behold, this guy that's in the White House, whom we cannot truly say why he's the way that he is, because it makes no sense for him to pardon this guy when it was known that he was trafficking cocaine into the United States. But yet, he goes into Venezuela, captures the president and his wife, and also has killed over 100 so-called drug traffickers over these past few months. And so, just here recently, and y'all are going to have to go look for yourselves, but this Rubio character, he had an interview with ABC. So look that up and just listen to that interview. But in that interview, he was asked, why would Donald Trump pardon the former president of Honduras, but yet go after the president of Venezuela? And this Rubio character, who's nothing but a puppet, his response was, well, like you said, the former president of Honduras. And because Maduro is the current, or was the current president of Venezuela, it made sense to lock him up, but yet pardon the guy from Honduras because he was the former president of Honduras. Now, make that make sense, y'all. Drugs are drugs. I don't care what your position is. A cartel is a cartel. Let's look at that term, cartel. And what's Donald Trump's reason for basically claiming some type of security risk between the United States and Mexico because of drug cartels? what was one of his biggest excuses for deporting a lot of the Hispanics? Was because they were, quote unquote, had ties to the drug cartel and how dangerous the drug cartels are. And when the guy who was president of Honduras was doing what he was doing, he was the biggest leader of the cartel, so to speak, in Honduras. And no telling what type of decisions were made, no telling how many lives were lost in Honduras behind this guy's drug trafficking. But yet, Donald J. Trump decided to pardon this guy. So we have to look at everything once again, and I've said it time and time again, when it comes down to anything that Donald Trump does. Because he tells the people he's doing something for one reason, but in the grand scheme of things, he has a whole nother reason on why he's doing what he's doing. And I said it, and many others have said it, the reason why he went after Venezuela, or there's a few reasons why, but one is because of the oil that's in Venezuela. And we know a person with as much greed as Donald J. Trump has, and the only thing that he ever thinks about is money, and the only thing that he uses in order to continue to persuade a lot of people in this country is money. It has nothing to do with anything else but that oil that's coming from Venezuela. And because he cannot profit from the moving of drugs in and out of the country, he found an excuse to go into Venezuela and basically take over Venezuela. He was one of those people that in the beginning was saying how he doesn't agree with regime change in other countries, and that the United States shouldn't go into other countries and take over their government. And look at what Donald J. Trump is doing, y'all. He is literally saying that the United States is in control now of Venezuela. And why? Because Venezuela has a lot of oil resources, and Donald J. Trump wants to take over in advantage of their oil resources. Nothing to do with drugs, because if it did, the guy that was the former president of Honduras would still be sitting in prison or wherever else he was. He would not be a free man at this point in time. But like I said, Donald J. Trump, he can say what he wants to say, but his actions have time and time again proven what he really, his real intentions are, and the type of person that he really is. Because like I said, for that guy to been moving hundreds of pounds of cocaine in the United States, that means that he was the biggest cartel leader in Honduras. Meaning that he was calling shots, people's lives were being lost, but yet Donald Trump pardons him. And like I said, he uses the term cartel as a reason for people to have some type of disdain for the Hispanic race. Because the way that he portrays people, if you don't have your own mind and use common sense and you follow and believe everything that Donald Trump says, he will literally have you disliking certain groups of people because of the wording that he uses when he describes people. Y'all, this is some weird times that we're in. And the people, this isn't for the people that know better. This is for the people that voted for this guy. This is for the people that are continuously supporting this guy. For them to wake up, smell the coffee, and see that Donald J. Trump has a hidden agenda in everything that he does. And stop letting this guy lie to you. These poor Venezuelans, and I can't say that because the president could have been a bad person. But the president of Honduras apparently was a good person according to Donald Trump. You know how he is. He's quick to say that one group of people is good, even though they're committing the same crimes and doing the same ignorant things that the other group is doing, and say that the other group is bad. And I hate to bring this back up over and over again, but for him to claim that those people that went to the White House when he lost that election, for him to say that those were good people, this guy has no judge of character. And a lot of the military personnel has forgotten when he called them stupid. He called the military personnel stupid in his first election or his first term. But yet people still want to run behind him and believe that he has their best interest in mind. And he does not. He does not have their best interest in mind when he's literally on the verge of starting wars with these different countries, and then you're taking the troops and putting the troops over in Venezuela at this point in time, and no telling wherever else you're going to have the troops go. And these young men and these women's lives are literally on the line. Yeah, the military in Venezuela may not equate to a hill of beans, but he has to understand that the citizens and the quote-unquote cartel leaders and members, they have guns as well. So it's not the military that Donald J. Trump in the United States military needs to worry about. It's the citizens in that country that they need to worry about. Let's think about it. Yeah, the military of the United States is a powerful force. But we have to look at the number of guns that the citizens have compared to the number of guns that the military has. Yeah, they have the missiles, they have the tanks and all that kind of stuff, which in the long run could eventually, sway whoever wins or loses. But it's a massacre. It would be a bloody war because of the amount of people that have guns. I know people on the streets that may have 5 and 6 guns in their house. Yeah, you can't shoot that many guns at one time. But hear what I'm saying, y'all. It's not the military, it's not the police for the most part that the United States military is going to have to worry about if and when they set feet on the ground over in Venezuela. It's those cartel members, those drug traffickers that Donald Trump, yeah, you're blowing up their boats in the water because they cannot defend themselves in the water. But when you set foot on their land, that's a whole nother ball game, Donald J. Trump. And I'm not wishing anything bad on anyone, but I'm saying these things because he claims to be the president of peace. But yet all he has done is cause calamity. It has caused disruption within this country and in other countries because of his decisions. But every time he goes and speaks, it's all about all of the achievements that he's made, all of the good things that he's done. But yet people are spending more money at this point in time than we have ever spent. And we have to understand that, yeah, gas prices may be down, but I only fill up my gas tank once a week. So I'd rather deal with a $3.50 per gallon gas bill than have to worry about having to spend an extra $20 or $30 when I go to the grocery store or when I go and buy other things, because other things prices have increased. And like I said, I can't blame that all on Donald Trump because history tells nothing stays the same forever. You hear your grandparents say they used to pay a nickel for a loaf of bread. You hear your parents say they used to pay 25 cents for a loaf of bread. You hear me say, I remember when a loaf of bread was 79 cents. So things change. I get that. But what Donald Trump does is he blames everything that appears to be negative on the Democrats. It's not ever his fault. It's not ever a Republican's fault. And then, like I say, he uses that word money, money, money time and time again Because a lot of us, that's what our focus is. We get up every morning to go to work in order to make money to pay our bills. And he knows this. The actions that many people do in society is in order to make money. And because he knows this, he knows that he can use that in order to sway people and continue to lie to people. But like I said, I got way too much common sense, and I can see through a lot of the nonsense to fall for any other crap. And I'm speaking to him right now because he's the president. There's been plenty of others, Democrats and all, that feed the people a lot of crap. And this is another thing that I want to talk about before I get off of here, because I've said it over and over again. The people that follow Donald J. Trump as close as they do, they are some of the lowest IQ people in society. And I mean that because, for one, for thousands of people to go to the White House to try and overturn something that in the long run they probably knew they couldn't do, that means that you don't have the highest of IQs. You know, people talk negatively about the black community, in which I do not agree with. When something happens that we as brown and black people go into our own communities and destroy businesses and destroy people's property, I don't agree with that. But when the black and brown community decides to riot or stand up for something, a lot of times they're standing up for something that really needs to be stood up for. Senseless killings, things of that nature. But these Caucasians, whites in America, decided to go to the White House because the person that they wanted to be president didn't win. Do you see my point, y'all? They're fighting for something that in the long run they truly don't have control over. But not only that, they're fighting for something because they want America to go backwards. Donald J. Trump is actually taking the United States backwards, believe it or not. We have to once again listen to the way that he speaks and the things that he says and how he speaks to people. He will publicly disrespect someone. What kind of leader is that? That's the type of leader that wants total control over everything. When you start to disrespect the people around you. But like I said, y'all, they have some of the lowest IQs. They truly do. And I say this, and it was proven. Me and my family, we went to Stone Mountain Park to walk around. My son wanted to go to the park and play on the playground. So we decided to let him play on the playground. So we're sitting there enjoying the evening or what have you. And so a gentleman and his family comes up, and he has on a Make America Great Again hat, or Make America Great, or whatever that phrase is. In which I wasn't tripping. I'm not the type of person, man, what you doing? I ain't going in all that with nobody. So, he's with his family. That man, he wants to come and enjoy the evening as well. Nothing's wrong with that. So I'm sitting there. His little son walks up. And the first thing I noticed is how he spoke to his son. He called his son a drunk. He said, "Go ahead, you little drunk." In which some people think that's friendly humor. But as a grown man with children, you don't call your child a drunk. That's not funny. But once again, when you have people that think like Donald J. Trump thinks, they think talking and saying things like that is cool. It's funny. Oh, it's just a joke. Is it really a joke? You see what I'm saying? Because some people don't play like that. You're not going to call my son or my daughter a drunk, period. And you're not going to hear me say that to my own children. So I noticed that, I heard it. Okay. I just kind of let it go over my head. You get what I'm saying? So there are some little teacups, those things that children sit in and they spin around and around. So the little boy got into the teacup, and the boy was about 2 years old. He was a young child, very young. So the dad started spinning him, and he's spinning and spinning him, and the kid was enjoying it. So it wasn't as if he was doing it and the little boy wanted to get off. So after spinning, the little boy got off, and he was stumbling. He fell down to the ground, in which, as a parent, and once again, the boy was 2 years old. As a parent, I'm going to stand over my child. I'm going to protect my child. He just let the little boy fall flat on his face, y'all, into the bark pieces. So the little boy fell flat on his face. And instead of him picking the little boy up off of the ground, he started kicking the little boy. And he wasn't kicking him like he was stumping him out, but he was kicking the boy in his side, talking about, get up. Get up, you little drunkard, or you little drunk, get up. And I'm thinking, like, the boy is 2 years old. You just was spinning this boy around and around in a teacup. You let him fall flat on his face, and then you start to kick him in opposed to picking him up. All right, that's a little ignorant. So the little boy finally gets up, and he wants to get back in the teacup again. So the dad let him get back in the teacup again. The little boy started spinning around and around again. He gets out again and falls flat on his face for a second time, y'all. And the little boy was laying there and not moving. So for a minute there, I'm thinking the little boy done fell and knocked himself out, because literally he was laying on the ground and wasn't moving. So he finally got up again. And he went to get back in the teacup, and the mother had to step in, because I'm sitting right there and I'm listening to everything. And she tells him, stop. Look at his face. The little boy had marks all on the side of his face and scratches because he had fallen on his face twice. And he's 2 years old. And it took his mother to have to step in and tell him, you need to stop. The little boy is going to end up getting hurt. Because for one, you let him keep getting off of it, and you're not even holding him up. You letting him just fall straight to the ground, y'all. Straight on his face, y'all. And so I say that because that's the way that these Make America Again people think. They have no common sense. And when I see it, I have to say something about it to you guys. And this happened right in front of me. And it proved everything that I've been saying, that these people have no sense of person. And they think that people being hurt and is a funny thing. It's a good thing. And this was his own child, y'all. But I had to say that to y'all guys. I had to let y'all know that, just because we have to be on our P's and Q's when it comes down to the people that truly follow Donald J. Trump. I mean, look at it. And I'm going to get off here soon. But it's so much that I have to say and be wanting to say about everything that surrounds this guy. And because another thing I want to talk about is this rapper girl, this Nicki girl, to where she's supporting Donald J. Trump, in which, once again, we all have free will. We all can follow behind who we want to follow behind. But we have to understand that Donald J. Trump and the people around him thinks that, oh, if we can get her to endorse us, we can get her followers to also endorse us, in which it backfired. Many of this lady's fans have decided to turn against her, have decided not to follow the leader, meaning that if she decides to put out another rap album or whatever you want to call that mess that she makes, she's lost a lot of fans, meaning that she's lost a lot of record sales. People ain't gonna buy your music no more, so you're gonna have to start depending on the money that Donald J. Trump and them people over there are paying you, if they paying you anything. You see what I'm saying? And what we have to understand as well, and I'm not saying that she isn't intelligent, but I like to compare intelligence to the things that people say and do. And she's been recorded several times claiming that she has a split personality, that she has a little boy or a young man or an old man inside of her that takes over her and controls her at certain moments and times in her life. To where I'm not saying that she isn't possessed by something. She may be just as well possessed by some demon of some sort. But at the same time, that is the type of person, if you have any common sense whatsoever, that you should not be following behind. When a person has outrightly told you that they're possessed by another spirit, you should be walking away from that person. You should be praying for that person. Not going and buying their music, because what you have to understand, if she is possessed, that possessed spirit is living through her music. And personally, I only knew one song that she made, not the young lady, but to me, majority of the music, whether it's now or from past times, is a lot of garbage. It's teaching us and preaching to us things that we should not be happy about and not should be indulging in. And it's serious, y'all, because like I say, I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke a lot of weed. You know, I did a lot of things that rap music portrays. And it wasn't just because of the music, but the music played a part in my actions. It did. And we have to understand that, because music does help support certain things that people do. People back in days when we used to want to go and smoke some weed, we may go find a song, a CD that has a song about smoking weed, or put on a CD and play some music that we like while we getting high. So music plays a big factor in the actions that we commit every day in life. And like I say, this is not about her music per se, but at the same time, what do we expect from a person, A, that is claiming to be possessed, B, makes the type of music that she made? What do you expect? Majority of the people in the industry supports Donald J. Trump. And why? Because they're in the industry. Because they sold their souls. And so ignorance is all they know. And so ignorance is what they're going to follow behind. A lot of music is just that. It's ignorance, y'all. It really is. And I'm not saying that from a position of a person that didn't listen to it. I did listen to it. I'm not saying that music should be banned and all of their music should be burned up. But what I'm saying is, if you're a changed person, if you're a saved person, then that music is something that you should not be listening to. The people that make the music are people that you should not follow, because you are a saved person. That's just like these churches deciding to take rap music and love songs and try and use them for God's purpose. Something that was meant for the devil, y'all, is just that. It's meant for the devil. The things that are meant for God and for Jesus are meant for God and Jesus. They do not intertwine. We have to understand that. And as pastors and preachers and so-called leaders, that's something that they should understand. That's something that they should not be doing. But yet they have put themselves into that position. A lot of those people are not called to do the things of Jesus. They're not called to do the righteous things of God. They are called to do the things of the devil. So that's why they do what they do, y'all. The devil has preachers as well. We have to understand that. And a lot of them are now running churches. Majority of them are music artists. And we have a lot of them that are politicians. And the biggest one right now is the president of the United States. So y'all, it's just time for us to wake up. It's just time for us to stop being blinded and letting people betray us because of our ignorance. It's time to let go of the ignorance, y'all. It really is. Because like I say, everything that Donald Trump is doing and a lot of people that follow him, that's just what they are, a bunch of ignorant people. And they've proved it one way or another that they are just that, ignorant. You even have certain Venezuelans thinking that by the United States taking over Venezuela, that that's going to make Venezuela a better country. But yet you cannot and you have not made the United States better. You haven't. But yet you think you're going to go into a whole nother country and build that country up and make that country into this powerhouse civilization or society. But yet the United States, we need a lot of work to be done in this country. A lot of work. You understand? But I'm going to jump off of here, y'all. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. And like I say, go back and check out that interview that ABC did with, I guess he called the Speaker of the House, or whatever his name is, his title is, I should say, but that Rubio character. Go check that out and just listen to that interview. And he is going to basically verify everything that I'm telling you when it comes down to the fact that the United States military was sent into Venezuela in order to take over Venezuela so that they could so that the United States can take over their oil supply. It has nothing, once again, to do with drugs. The blowing up of these drug boats was just a show of force and a show of power in order to put fear into the Venezuelans and also into the president of Venezuela. That's what it was. It wasn't, once again, to stop the drugs, because if that guy goes back to Honduras, there's a high probability that he's going to go back to moving drugs. I mean, a very high probability that that's what he's going to do. Because, for one, he's no longer president. Two, he needs a source of revenue, a source of income. And how is he going to do that? And a lot of people, they go back to doing things that they know what to do and they know how to do. You see what I'm saying? And there's a high probability that he's going to go back to moving cocaine. You see what I'm saying? And with Donald Trump and the way that he's thinking, as if he can just go into all these Hispanic countries and take over them. But what he's doing is he's going to spread the United States military thin, because we're going to have the military in all these different places. So you're spreading the military thin. And so what he did is he promised not all of the military, because if you're a veteran, you're not going to receive that $202,500, whatever it was that he promised them that he's going to give to the military personnel. It's not everybody that's going to even get that little $2,000, y'all. So if he truly cared about the military, even veterans would receive that money. People who are, what they call them, the part-time military personnel, they would get that money. But they're not getting that money, y'all. So does he really care? But he gets in front of the television because he knows that billions of Americans are in front of the television, and he gives them the what is the word I'm looking for? The less information. The less information, like I said, that they feel the less information that we get, the more control that they have. So he's not going to give you the full details. He's just going to give you parts of it. Yeah, I'm going to give the military $2,500 a piece. But he didn't say, well, that's only for active members, and that's also for only certain members. The veterans aren't going to get it. The reservists aren't going to get it. But yet they are the military. And it's the veterans out here that are suffering the most when it comes down for the most part, when it comes down to military personnel. It's the veterans. The veterans out here begging for money, The veterans out here are scraping up all of the crumbs that they can get in order to have. But like I say, y'all, y'all got to stop being fooled. Y'all have to stop letting him fool you. But y'all have a good one, and I'll talk to you as soon as I can.